Everyone. A few weeks before I record this video, I was checking my traffic stats on my blog and saw that my written review of the electric state, which I will put a link to in the doobly-doo, was getting a whole lot of traffic. And was wondering, hey, why is that going on? So I did some checking, and it turns out the electric state is getting a movie. And so Netflix, and so I watched the trailer, and I actually watched a couple times prior to this, so this isn't a cold reaction. But I have some thoughts, and related to my perspective on the books, on the book. Um, Quick reminder of kind of what the book is. Electric State is a book by Simon Stalingrad. It is a art book with accompanying narration that conveys a story of a girl and her younger brother, who his consciousness is in a robot body. As they travel across the United States, particularly the American Southwest, to California and then the coast. Northern California, so go up a bit. Contending with various things along the way, because the United States has been basically torn apart by a war. It is not spelled out what type of war it is. We know it does, to a degree, as far as the story is concerned, it doesn't matter what started it. What matters narratively is how it was fought. It was fought with these virtual reality, robotically operated drones, like full sensory input, that sort of thing. There's particular headset design that's involved with them. And after the war, the war went badly, and afterwards the country was basically torn apart in a lot of respects, economically, culturally, psychologically, especially psychologically. It is a story that, much as with the book that Stalingrad talked before this, Things from the Flood, is very melancholic. Things from the Flood is the sequel to Tales from the Loop. Tales from the Loop, very kids on bikes, mild adventure, story set in 80s it never was, in Scandinavia, involving the adventures of various kids around this community as they interact with the technology around this superconducting super collider called the Loop, and the ways in which the technology developed from the Loop has changed the world, but in particular how it relates to their lives. It is a story that is nostalgic in the sense that it is the lives these kids are living are in some respects very recognizable from what you imagine what a kid in the 80s their life might be like, but also what do you imagine, but what their life was like, and often how it was depicted in popular culture, but also in a sense of but with this heightened technology giving new ways for kids to get into mischief and that sort of thing. Tales from the Loop takes an older take, like an older teenage take on this, where you're approaching high school and high school graduation, and you're becoming more aware of the impact of things in the world around you. There's also a sense of loss and decay and things falling apart. The Loop is failing and shutting down. Various forms of strange technology have emerged from the Loop. And in the lives of the kids of the community, people are losing jobs, having to move away, or not able to move away and stuck unemployed or in a less paying job in this community, or divorces are happening and that sort of thing. There's a pervasive sense of loss there. And the art book version of the Electric State gets into that even more, where we have this sense of pathos and that sort of stuff going on around the actual this journey. As there are hazards, but it's not necessarily meant to be a story with a direct antagonist or threats. I mean, there are threats. There's a implied sense of peril, but there is not in the same way. It's not a conventional road trip narrative as like with, for example, it's a road trip narrative, but not like, say, for example, something like with The Wizard, where you have clear antagonist figures who are menacing and opposing their characters along the way. It's just they're going from point to point to point, and there's hazards and perils along the way, but there's no all-encompassing threat that's targeting them specifically, or anything like that. Nor is there any big bad at the end to be overcome, uh, in that respect. So, with that in mind, let's move on. Let's go on to the trailer. I'm going to pause and comment along the way. All right. Here we go. Hopefully this doesn't get me too content ID'd. I'm going to make myself a little bigger here. Just to cover the bases, hopefully, from a fair use standpoint. There we go. All right. And now with that, and this is my first time doing something like this with me capturing audio and such from a trailer or a video or something like that. So with that out of the way, let's begin.
You sure you want to do this?
And this is where I enter thanks I hate it territory. Let's go back for a second. This shot here is a really good job in a lot of respects capturing the tone of the book. It's just destruction and some degree of devastation with a traditional family environment being something that is looked back on favorably through, but is long lost with the brushing of dirt off of this piece of art. Getting across the set of loss. Good first opening image in terms of conveying a sense of the work itself.
You sure you want to do this?
And this is going to be a minor problem here is with Chris Pratt. Look, I enjoyed Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy and various Marvel stuff and that sort of things. He is a good actor that does a good, decent job of a mix of comedic and serious. The problem is, Tales from the for something like Tales from the Loop, actually he'd kind of work well. But for something like the Electric State, with tonally what it's aiming for, he doesn't what he brings to the table doesn't feel right necessarily. This is not saying he can't do that. It is impossible for him to do drama or pathos or that sort of thing. He could quite possibly absolutely do that. The problem is that that's not what he brings to this at this point in his career. His in a weird way, if you're going to add a character to the story, which I absolutely approve of adding somebody in this position in the narrative, or what we're going to see with Chris Pratt's character is. But this, if you're going to, as much as sad dad characters get overused, this is actually a place where you want to put a sad dad character or an actor who can pull off, who's known for doing a sad dad kind of role. Not to argue for him being typecast. This is the point where you put in a Pedro Pascal, for example, or a Liam Neeson, that sort of thing. You could even do a Ewan McGregor here or something like this. Not saying he couldn't do that, but what I think is Chris Pratt needs at this point in his career to find his Insomnia, his 1 hour photo. Those were films that really helped get across to people that Robin Williams wasn't just a really good comedy actor. He is a really good comedy actor, but he can take that comedy and put it into dramatic range. Or for that matter, he needs his The Fisher King. But I don't think this is that, or at least how the trailer is presenting it. The trailer could be lying, and we'll get into this for a bit. Another good look, nailing Stalingrad's visual aesthetic for this. So it does show that we're not just California, we're going up to the Pacific Northwest and Seattle and that sort of thing. All right, good to see that. Also, like to see the Pacific Northwest get more representation in film. I kind of like to see more Portland, but I can understand if our involvement of Portland is on the way through to Seattle, I'd be interested to see if they slip the White Stag Brewing Oregon sign in the background.
Right now, all of us have something in common.
Pause again. Also, great little allusion there to, in a way, stuff from Tales from the Loop and the way that Stalingrad's previous work fed into the sort of kids on bikes movement of modern movement of adventure film and television and that sort of thing. Something that Stranger Things also is very much a part of. Also, none of the cast of Stranger Things that I can tell is in this, which, you know what, works well, actually. Don't want to see them getting necessarily typecast in kids on bikes roles, even as they get into their adulthood, or adjacent to kids on bike roles.
We all lost something after the rebellion.
So they didn't really say much in the book about whether it was a rebellion or a civil war or that sort of thing. It mentioned there was a war, and the U.S. got very much taken apart because of it. So the visuals here, like with the ruined mascot robot figure, works.
Robots lost their freedom.
It's been a while since I read the book. I don't remember much of a robot civil rights thing here. It looks like we'll be incorporating a certain degree of archival footage stuff as part of this, showing events of the past. So this does kind of put a bit of a weird vibe on this of where where some of these moments are in the story, whether this is how things fit in.
Humans lost connection with each other.
So there's a bit of that in the book, but there's also a certain degree of of everyone kind of getting consumed into a unified technological thing. It's almost in how it's done in the book in a very refuting and in opposition to and criticizing the concept of the technological singularity, of the idea that from the outside the technological singularity actually looks kind of shitty in a lot of respects, and probably is. Also appreciate in the background the old school stereo and hi-fi stuff there. I approve.
And I lost everyone I loved. Or so I thought.
Okay, that part, absolutely on point. Dig it. Nope. I have everything. No notes. It has the right emotional core to the story. That sort of thing. All of that works. No notes.
So you want to go get your brother back? I'll go with you.
Someday.
And don't mind Chris Pratt, who Chris Pratt's character is in terms of from a narrative standpoint. The brother robot here in the story cannot talk, and you need to have somebody for the main character to talk to. Even if it's only like two significant characters traveling across effectively a wasteland, you still need to have somebody else. That's something with two people to bounce off of. It's why partway through Six String Samurai, the feral kid develops the ability to talk. It's why in Book of Eli, the two main characters can talk. Same in The Road. You need to have two characters to talk to when you're doing a film, talking to each other if you're doing a film version. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
You will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne
I'd have put Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Civil War in here, and maybe not mention the Gray Man, but that's just me.
A champagne supernova.
Okay, not sure about the Fallout party going on here, because like this part here, the electric stake is a lot of things. Fallout, it is not. In terms of the like, it does in terms of the games and that sort of thing. There is that degree of America that is stuck at a certain time, and Fallout, it's like the 50s. In the electric state, it's kind of the late 80s aesthetically, but here, like this is basically an adventuring party walking into a environment in the wasteland that is probably going to be some sort of dungeon scenario in a Fallout game, and I am a little iffy on this. Admittedly, I'm also coming into this like Free League has licensed, I believe they licensed the Electric State for a role playing game, and I don't know what that's going to look like yet. And like something like this could fit into that larger idea, with Free League doing their take on like looking at what Modifius was doing with their Fallout RPG, and saying, hey, no, we're going to take the concept of the electric state and like the setting and what we were doing with Mutant Year Zero in terms of reconstruction, building up a base of a home and that sort of thing, and have stuff like this. But I don't know. It's a little, torn on this. I like Giancarlo Esposito as an actor. He's a very good actor. He is brought into this shot as if he is a big overarching villain. And as I mentioned earlier, the book didn't have that, and the book didn't need it. The book had a very melancholic road trip vibe, and leading to something of a ending with a sense of ambiguity, whether it's upbeat or not. And I don't know where this is going. This feels like introducing in some sort of significant antagonist who's going to oppose them along the way. That, because what's the whole presentation? That said, this could be a standalone opponent at one point in the story. If they do this as a episodic like series of events along the road, then he could just be an antagonist during one part, because he could also work well there. But this a little like this presentation feels like, oh, we need to show that Giancarlo Esposito's in this movie and that he's probably playing some sort of antagonistic figure. He's good at that, but it's not a great. Again, it's but they're presented here as a recurring antagonist. Just to go back for a second. I do want to put a note in here. I do like this visual, though, of the robot carrying the VW bug on its shoulders. It's a little like in terms of the larger scope of things, but I like this. This visual looks neat. It's not in the book at all in terms of them having to be our protagonists getting a ride literally on a VW bus carried by a robot, but otherwise, it's all right.
I'm sorry.
Not sure where this is in the story. This feels late in the story in terms of the environment, because I feel like more toward the Northern California side of things. But this could also be a flashback to the historical footage. Or that robot march we saw earlier across the Golden Bridge is going to happen again, and we're going to get a big epic scope ending. If it is the latter, the big epic scope ending, yeah, not happy.
You can't change.
I have to look at your name in order to pronounce your name properly. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Ki Hui Kwan. All right. I'll make sure I pronounce it correctly. It's the right thing to do. He's a great actor. He's an Academy Award winner. He deserves it. I'm glad to see him here. I'm glad to see him working. I am very interested to see who he's playing in this, what his role is in the story. Looks great. I really want to see what he's doing. Let's rewind a second.
You can't change the way things are.
Okay, another like weird adventuring party, but here this feels like possibly back at the amusement park kind of thing. Wait a second.
Things are.
Another antagonist, probably antagonistic figure here. Don't know who he is. Didn't have him or need him in the book, and I'm okay with them. Like, I understand needing to have some antagonistic faces to represent antagonistic forces on the road, but the book doesn't really need a villain. If that makes sense, it needs antagonists. It needs opposition for the story. It needs obstacles to overcome. And some of those obstacles that can be antagonistic forces that have a leader who is villainous, but it does not need a central villain or group of villains. To put it another way, this is a little bit like the Warriors, except what if you didn't need what if Cyrus didn't frame the Warriors? What if Luther? What if Luther didn't frame the Warriors? What if Cyrus got shot and maybe even still by Luther? Maybe even Luther's going after the not even going after the Warriors. What if the Luther shoots Cyrus, or somebody shoots Cyrus, and the warrior and everyone has to disperse, and the warriors have to race back to Coney, and it's just that the truce is off. There's no bounty or call to target the warriors or anything like that. It's just the warriors can't trust nobody now, and so they are constantly running into threats and antagonism and that sort of thing on the way home, because everyone's because all the other gangs along the way are worried that somebody is going to take advantage of what happened at Van Cortlandt Park to expand their territory or start a gang war with them, and so they get perhaps unnecessary opposition from parties that would not necessarily be antagonistic, but are antagonistic now out of self-defense. Some of them are just being aggressive and seeking to expand their territory, and just having to make your way through chaos. And that's kind of what the electric state is. And this could be a antagonistic force for one step along the way, but like him and Giancarlo Esposito are being presented in a central antagonistic role. And I mean, yes, it's like there's 1 second clip here, but this is a shot that you use for depicting a central antagonist kind of situation.
Watch me.
Also, this ties into also with like the big epic scope kind of final showdown situation. Now, again, this could actually be a flashback, and we're seeing that back in the rebellion, that Chris Pratt's character was a fighter in the war and a soldier, or in some form or another, but he's not necessarily in that position now. But as presented here, is leading up to big epic scope final showdown, like in Avengers movies and that sort of thing, with the fate of all America lying in the balance. And this isn't that. It's not that. It doesn't need to be that.
Get ready.
You ready for what now?
This bit, I believe, is actually like in the book, where like a group of robots have basically a fortification where they're chucking appliances at people along the side of the road with catapults. Really great little funny bit.
Clem, get us out of here!
Hold on! Who throws refrigerator? Son of a...
Oh, Stranger Thing reference was not. Okay. I didn't make the Stranger Things weapons. I spaced that Millie Bobby Brown is in place our female lead, so I didn't mean to make the Stranger Things reference. A deliberate illusion, but good lord. I don't want her getting typecast as older teenager on bikes, but older teenager, young adult on bikes, but okay. I mean, just a good fit. Looks like she can pull this off. A lot of the cast is great. Not a fan of Chris Pratt here, but like Woody Harrelson, sure. Jason Alexander, great. Ke Huy Quan, excellent. Brian Cox, fantastic actor. All of these guys are great. I have a small feeling that like my vibe from the depths of my soul, Chris Pratt's a little miscast here. And this is the Russo brothers Avengers Captain America team. So yeah, which again leads me towards big epic scope final showdown, battle for the fate of humanity at the end of this, or fate of America, the heart and soul of America at the end of the story. So that is my thoughts on the Electric State. This is just the teaser. I'm hoping once we get a more involved and invested trailer later, we'll have a better sense of where this is going. As it stands, again, very thanks. I hate it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm that they do something better than I'm expecting. That this is a case of they are cutting the trailer in a specific way to present this big sweeping action epic scope narrative, because that's what you expect from this team of writers and directors, and trying to hook in that audience, and that this is the actual final work. Because again, I will say, for only for Sam with the Gray Man, it is a more somber piece in a lot of respects. Less Bond, more the original Bourne Identity. And I would hope, when all said and done, when the final work comes out, like this big, these big epic scope moments are kind of like picking and choosing from bits in the story, and perhaps the actual final work is more, again, more melancholic. To a certain degree, like, I guess what I'd say I want is, like there were bits from the trailer of the movie Civil War, like divorced of the film's premise, which is honestly kind of gross, where it's like, okay, where I get the idea, and it comes close to respect to the Electric State, of these people on a road trip across a United States that is culturally and psychologically torn apart, that is culturally and particularly psychologically broken, that we have been in many respects rent asunder through events. and our characters are just trying to find a way to put something back together at the other end of the journey, and not having that, or and not have and trying to find a way to do that with a ending that is totally ambiguous without spoiling anything. The ending of the book can be taken as hopeful or somewhat downbeat, but with a sense, but not, but still with a open-ended sense of the melancholy still preserved and things kind of left a little bit hanging. I'm not super happy about the trailer, but or the teaser. Once we get a proper trailer, I'll take another look at it. I won't do another reaction video necessarily for this, but we'll see. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Toss me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.